The ship's ramp closed behind them with a soft hiss, and Evan felt the subtle vibration of engines powering up beneath his feet. He glanced down at Lyra and Keo, who clung to his hands tightly, their silver eyes reflecting a mix of fear, wonder, and relief. The twins were silent now, but their small grips reminded him that they trusted him completely, even more than they did the Queen standing just ahead of him. Queen Seraphine moved through the ship's corridors with a calm precision that spoke of centuries of discipline. Her presence was heavy, yet not unkind, and Evan quickly realized that every glance she gave him carried questions that demanded honesty. He followed quietly, aware that in her eyes he was being measured. She had watched him raise her children, risked his own safety for their survival, and now she wanted to understand the man who had defied everything for love and duty alone. They reached a chamber at the center of the ship, a room bathed in a soft blue glow. Ancient Valari symbols were etched into the walls, pulsing faintly, and the air hummed with quiet energy. The Queen gestured for them to enter, and Evan carefully guided Lyra and Keo to the seating area before taking a position near the doorway. He could feel the weight of the moment, the unspoken understanding that his life had changed forever. "You have protected them for years," Seraphine said softly, almost to herself as she traced the edge of a console. "And yet, you are human, the species that fought against mine, that caused the destruction of my convoy and brought death to my world." Her voice did not carry anger now, only a quiet curiosity laced with grief. "Why did you choose to act against everything your kind might expect of you?" Evan looked down at the floor, then slowly met her gaze. "Because they were children," he said. "Because I once lost someone I loved and I could not let it happen again. I did not act for treaties or law. I acted for them and because it was the right thing to do. Nothing else mattered." The Queen regarded him in silence, the glow in her eyes softening but the intensity never fading completely. She moved closer, the energy surrounding her dimming into a warmer, gentler light. "You have risked everything for two lives that are not your own," she said. "Yet in doing so you have earned my trust, and perhaps even my respect. But understand this, the galaxy is not so forgiving. Others may see your actions as treason." Evan nodded. "I understand. I do not expect mercy from others. I only hope that I can keep them safe no matter what comes." Lyra tugged gently at his sleeve. "Will we have to leave Station 9 forever?" she asked, her voice trembling. Keo echoed. "Are we really going to live on this ship?" Evan crouched down, holding both their hands. "Yes," he said softly. "We're leaving behind the old station. But this is our chance to be safe. And to be with her. Your mother. You'll see, it won't be so bad. You'll have a new home and she will help us." Lyra's small silver eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of relief rather than fear. Keo nodded solemnly, understanding the gravity of the moment more than his sister did. Evan felt a pang of emotion, realizing that for years he had been their only protector, and now he would share that role with the mother they had never truly known. The Queen's ship was vast, with corridors that seemed endless and rooms filled with technology beyond human comprehension. Evan felt out of place, but Lyra and Keo ran ahead, exploring their new environment with cautious excitement. They touched glowing panels, watched holographic displays flicker to life, and laughed quietly as they discovered small spaces to hide and play. Seraphine watched their delight with a soft expression. For a ruler accustomed to war and loss, there was a strange comfort in seeing her children smile. Then she turned to Evan. "You will live among us now," she said quietly. "Not merely as a human, but as their guardian. You will have duties, responsibilities, and obligations. You will be watched by my council and my guards. Do you understand?" "I understand," Evan replied. "And I accept." The Queen's eyes softened further. "Good. You have shown courage, compassion, and loyalty, traits that are rare among your kind. I believe my children have chosen well in trusting you." Over the next few days, Evan learned the routines of the ship. He moved from room to room with the twins, teaching them the basics of Valari history, the importance of their heritage, and the ways they must behave among their people. He quickly realized that despite their small size and gentle appearance, Lyra and Keo carried within them the strength of their ancestors, a resilience and intelligence that amazed him. The Queen observed quietly, her presence looming, but not oppressive. Sometimes Evan caught glimpses of her studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. He wondered if she was judging him, or if she simply could not believe that a human could act with such selflessness. Regardless, he remained steadfast, guided by his love for the twins and his determination to keep them safe. One evening, as the ship drifted silently near a distant star, Evan found himself alone on the observation deck. He looked out at the endless expanse of stars, feeling a mixture of awe and trepidation. His life had changed completely. The quiet janitor he had once been was now a guardian aboard a Valeri royal ship, responsible not only for the lives of 2 children, but for their connection to a galaxy-wide legacy. Lyra and Keo soon joined him, their small hands slipping into his. Lyra pointed at a distant nebula. "Look, Dad, it's like the stories you told me. Blue and purple clouds like the oceans on Earth." Keo leaned against his shoulder, his voice soft. "We're really flying among the stars now. Is it safe?" Evan smiled, brushing a stray hair from Lyra's glowing markings. "As safe as it can be. And we have each other. That's what matters most." Days passed, and Evan grew more accustomed to the rhythms of life aboard the ship. He learned to navigate corridors with Valeri technology, to understand the subtle signals of the Queen's Council, and to anticipate the twins' needs. Lyra became fascinated with learning the Valeri language fully, while Keo delved into tactical simulations, showing a sharp mind that reminded Evan of himself in younger years. The twins thrived, their laughter and curiosity filling the corridors with life. Yet as he grew more comfortable, Evan also noticed the tension that lingered. There were those among the Valeri who questioned his presence, whispering behind his back about the human who dared raise royal heirs. Some council members watched him closely, testing him, hoping to catch him in mistakes or failures. Evan ignored them, focusing instead on the twins, knowing that his duty was to protect them, guide them, and ensure their well-being. Then, one quiet night, the Queen called him to her private chamber. The air was filled with a faint blue glow, and the walls pulsed with the same soft energy that ran throughout the ship. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she studied him with those twin sun-like eyes, searching, questioning, weighing. "You have done more than I could have asked," she said finally, her voice soft. "You have protected my children when the galaxy itself would have left them to die. You have taught them, guided them, loved them. Tell me, what do you want?" Evan hesitated. For the first time, he was asked not to answer for survival, not to act out of duty, but to speak honestly. He looked down at his hands, then back at the Queen. "I want them to be safe. I want them to grow up knowing love and hope and courage. I want them to have a life I could not give my daughter, and I suppose if I am honest, I want to belong somewhere again. I want to feel like I have a place in this universe." The Queen's gaze softened completely. She nodded slowly. "Then you shall have it. Not as a servant, not as a mere human, but as their guardian and a part of our world. Your courage has earned you a place among us." Evan felt a swell of emotion, a mixture of relief, pride, and awe. He had started as a janitor, hiding in the quiet corners of a station, yet now he had become something more. He had become a protector, a father, a human who had bridged worlds and earned the trust of a queen. The twins joined them shortly after, their glowing eyes reflecting both curiosity and happiness. Lyra ran to Evan, throwing her small arms around him, while Keo clung to his leg. The Queen watched quietly, a faint smile breaking her composed mask. She placed her hands lightly on the twins' shoulders. "They are strong because of you," she said to Evan. He looked at the 3 of them, Lyra, Keo, and the Queen, and realized that this was his family, in a way he had never imagined possible. And though the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and often cruel, he knew that as long as he had them, he could face anything. As the ship drifted through the endless expanse of stars, Evan understood that his life had changed forever. He was no longer a janitor, no longer invisible. He was a human who had made a difference, a man who had loved and protected when it mattered most. And in return, he had earned a place among the stars, with a queen who once feared his kind, and 2 children who called him father, and that knowledge filled him with a quiet, unshakable joy. The mining outpost floated quietly around a dying red star. It was a lonely place. Metal corridors full of echoes and dust, lights that flickered like tired eyes, and people who rarely spoke unless they needed to trade. Once, the outpost had been a busy center for miners and traders, but now it was mostly a shelter for the forgotten. Humans, aliens, and drifters who had nowhere else to go. Eli lived there, fixing broken machines for anyone who could pay a few credits. He was a human in his late 30s, quiet and steady, with grease-stained hands and tired eyes that had seen too much of war. He never talked about his past, but sometimes when the lights went dim, he would stare at the stars and whisper to himself. He used to serve as an engineer during the evacuation wars. He helped ships escape when planets were burning. But in saving others, he had lost his own home. Every morning, Eli opened his small workshop. The air smelled of oil and cold metal. He sat at his bench surrounded by old parts, welding sparks dancing in front of him like tiny blue stars. The outpost people came and went, trading food, batteries, or spare coins for his work. One quiet day, while Eli was repairing a power regulator, he heard soft footsteps behind him. When he turned, he saw a small figure standing in the doorway. It was a girl, an alien child no older than 10. Her skin was pale with a faint silver glow, and her eyes were large and bright like moonlight. She wore a torn gray coat and no shoes. She looked frightened but determined. Slowly, she stepped closer and held out her small hand. In it was a wrinkled 5-credit chit. "Please," she said in a soft, trembling voice. "Can you fix this?" In her other hand, she held a tiny communication device. It was cracked, rusted, and clearly useless. Eli blinked in surprise. "That thing," he said gently. "It's so old it might not even have a power core." The girl nodded silently, still holding out the 5 credits. Her fingers were shaking. Eli took the device carefully and studied it. "Why is this so important to you?" he asked. She lowered her eyes. "It's the only way I can talk to my mother," she whispered. "She didn't come back from the evacuation ship." Eli froze. The word evacuation echoed in his mind like thunder. He remembered those ships, crowded, loud, full of fear. He remembered people screaming for their loved ones, children crying, soldiers yelling orders. He remembered the day everything burned. He looked back at the girl. She was so small, clutching hope like it was the only thing she had left. Eli sighed softly and knelt down. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she answered. "Okay, Lyra," he said with a faint smile. "I'll try to fix it, but it may take some time." She nodded and sat on a crate near the workbench. She watched him silently, her big eyes following every move he made. Eli worked carefully, replacing small circuits, cleaning dust, and connecting broken wires. The communicator was old, probably from before the war. He didn't expect it to work, but he couldn't tell her that. Hours passed. The light outside shifted from red to a darker hue as the outpost rotated. Eli kept working, glancing at Lyra from time to time. She didn't move much. Sometimes she looked down, holding the 5-credit chit tightly as if afraid he might change his mind. Finally, Eli attached a new power cell and pressed the switch. For a second, nothing happened. Then a small light blinked on the side of the communicator. Static filled the room, soft and crackling. Lyra gasped, covering her mouth with both hands. Eli turned a small dial, trying to clear the signal. Through the static, a faint sound came, a broken voice, almost lost. Then a few words formed, weak but clear enough to hear. "Lyra, my little light, I love you." The signal faded, replaced again by static. Lyra's silver eyes filled with tears. She reached for the communicator with trembling hands and held it close to her chest. "That's her," she whispered, her voice breaking. "That's my mother's voice." Eli didn't know what to say. The room felt heavy with emotion. He looked away for a moment, pretending to adjust his tools, hiding the ache in his chest. Lyra wiped her eyes and looked at him with a shaky smile. "Thank you," she said softly. "I didn't think anyone would help me." Eli tried to smile back. "You don't have to thank me," he said. 5 credits isn't much, but I guess it's the best payment I've ever received." She giggled weakly, the sound small but warm. Then she stood up, bowed her head slightly in a way her species did to show respect, and left the workshop. Eli watched her disappear into the dim corridor. Something inside him twisted, something he hadn't felt in years. He sat down slowly, staring at his hands. They were the same hands that once repaired ships during the war, the same hands that had failed to save everyone, and yet tonight they had done something good. Something small but good. As the artificial night settled over the outpost, Eli closed his workshop and stepped outside. The corridors were silent, lights flickering as the old station creaked. He walked to the small window that faced the red star. The light bathed everything in a faint crimson glow. He thought about the little girl alone in this cold place, holding on to a voice that was almost gone. It broke his heart to imagine it, but at the same time it reminded him that hope was still possible, even here. He stayed there for a long time, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, maybe the girl's mother was still alive, waiting for a signal that would never reach her. Or maybe that voice was just an old recording. Either way, it meant something to Lyra, and for Eli that was enough. Later that night, as he returned to his bunk, he heard the faint sound of the communicator again. Through the thin walls, he could hear the soft static hum and a small voice repeating the same broken message. He realized Lyra was nearby, replaying it again and again like a lullaby. Eli lay awake listening. It had been a long time since he had cared about anything beyond machines and survival. But tonight he cared about that little alien girl and her 5 credits. When he finally closed his eyes, he saw her face. The way her eyes had filled with tears. The way she had smiled despite the pain. Something deep inside him shifted. Maybe the universe wasn't as empty as he thought. Maybe kindness, no matter how small, still mattered. And as the outpost drifted silently through space, one human mechanic found himself hoping for the first time in years.